The humans are becoming problematic again, First Administrator Vorks announced to the Galactic Council chambers. His tentacle-lined face quivered with annoyance as he tapped a glowing console. He suppressed a sigh. As junior archivist to the Council, these meetings were mandatory attendance for me, but rarely entertaining. This one promised to be different, though. Humans always made things interesting. Problematic? How? Asked Representative Tuluk, her crystalline exoskeleton catching the light. They have been confined to their solar system for nearly 30 cycles. What trouble could they possibly cause from there? Oryx's eye stalks twisted toward her. They are telling stories again. A collective groan echoed through the chamber. I tried not to laugh. The Council's relationship with humanity was complicated, to say the least. After humans had nearly destroyed half the Orion Arm during what they called the misunderstanding and what everyone else called the human catastrophe. The Council had taken measures. Humanity was quarantined to their solar system, their faster-than-light technology confiscated, and most importantly, the official historical record was adjusted. What stories are they telling now? Asked Elder Pizrun, his ancient voice rasping through the translator. The true ones, Warwick replied grimly. The chamber fell silent. I felt a chill run up my spine ridges. The true ones meant humanity was remembering what the Council had tried so hard to make them forget. Archivist Quasel, Vorex called, and I jumped. You have studied human psychology. Explain how this is possible. All eyes turned to me. Wonderful. Just what I needed, to be put on the spot in front of the entire Council. I adjusted my ceremonial sash and stepped forward. Well, First Administrator, humans possess remarkable memory persistence. I began, trying to sound scholarly rather than fascinated. Unlike most species, they transfer information through numerous methods: oral traditions, written records, digital archives, artistic expression, and even encoded into their entertainment. We may have altered their official records, but we cannot control their stories. Their stories, Representative Tuluk scoffed. Primitive mythology. With respect, Representative, I countered. Their stories carry more weight in their culture than our official records do in ours. Humans have a peculiar relationship with truth. They often trust an emotionally resonant story over clinically presented facts. Are you suggesting, Elder Pizrun leaned forward, that our comprehensive memory adjustment program has failed? Not failed, I said carefully, but perhaps it was incomplete. First Administrator Vorix's face tentacles writhed in agitation. Show us evidence of these stories. I tapped my datapad and projected a human entertainment program onto the chamber's main display. The Council members watched with increasing horror as animated humans depicted events from the misunderstanding with remarkable accuracy: how the Council ships had fired first, how the human diplomats had been imprisoned without trial, how their colony worlds had been bombarded in preemptive defense. This is outrageous, hissed Representative Tuluk. They are portraying us as villains. Actually, I pointed out, they are portraying historical events as they occurred rather than as our adjusted records state. Silence, Archivist, Vork snapped. You forget your place. I lowered my eyes respectfully, though inside I was smiling. Humans had always fascinated me, ever since I'd been assigned to study their culture. Their resilience was remarkable. For 30 cycles the Council had maintained the narrative that humans had attacked first, that the quarantine was for the safety of all species. The truth that the Council had been terrified of how quickly humans were advancing and had attempted to hobble their progress was supposed to be buried forever. The question remains, Elder Pizrun said. What shall we do about this? We must reinforce the memory adjustments, Vorix declared. Send additional truth correction teams to their system. We have done that 3 times. Representative Tulok pointed out. Each time within a few cycles the stories re-emerge. It's as if they are immune to our memory technologies. Not immune, I said, forgetting myself again. They simply remember differently than we do. Their brains form stronger connections through emotional experiences. Facts can be altered, but feelings persist. Then we must address the emotional component, Vorix decided. Archivist Quasel, since you seem to have so many opinions on humans, you will accompany the truth correction team to Earth. Find out how they are preserving these memories and eliminate the source. My heart's nearly stopped.
Me?
Go to Earth. The prospect was both terrifying and thrilling. I had studied humans for years, but never actually met one. First Administrator, I stammered. I'm an archivist, not a field agent. You are whatever I say you are, Verwerks replied coldly. You leave tomorrow. And that's how I found myself on a council diplomatic vessel headed for the Sol system, wondering what I'd gotten myself into. The truth correction team consisted of 5 specialists, led by Agent Dren, a stern Vilaxian with a reputation for thoroughness. I have reviewed your files, Archivist Dren said as we prepared to enter Earth's atmosphere. Your fascination with humans borders on inappropriate. I study all species with equal interest. I lied. My quarters back home were filled with human artifacts, books, music recordings, replicated artwork. I found their creativity astounding. Remember our mission, Dren continued. We identify how they are preserving these forbidden memories. We eliminate the source, and we reinforce the corrected historical narrative. No fraternizing with the subjects. Of course, I agreed while privately wondering how I could possibly meet as many humans as I could during our stay. Our ship landed at the designated council embassy in what humans called New Geneva, once a center of international diplomacy. Now it served as the council's administrative headquarters on Earth. Humans were permitted to approach only through official channels, and even then were subjected to intensive screening. We will begin interviews tomorrow, Dren announced as we settled into our quarters. The embassy has arranged meetings with human educators, historians, and media producers. Archivist, you will observe and take notes. Do not engage directly. That night I couldn't sleep. I stood at my window, looking out at the human city beyond the embassy walls. Lights twinkled in the darkness, and I could hear faint sounds of music and laughter. What were they like, these resilient beings who refused to forget, who kept their history alive through stories when their official records had been altered? The next morning, our team assembled in the embassy's main conference room. The first group of humans was being escorted in, professors from their prestigious universities, experts in history and political science. Remember, Dren whispered to me, observe only. The doors slid open, and I got my first close look at living humans. They were more varied than I'd expected from recordings, different colors, sizes, features, but they all shared that distinctive human posture, upright and oddly confident, despite being in a room full of aliens who controlled their fate. Welcome, Dren said through his translator. We appreciate your participation in this cultural exchange. A tall human with dark skin and gray-streaked hair smiled thinly. Is that what this is? We were told this was regarding our petition to access the sealed historical archives. Dren's facial scales rippled with annoyance. That matter is not up for discussion. We are here to talk about educational practices. Of course you are, the human replied. I recognized the tone from my study's sarcasm. Humans wielded it like a weapon. I'm Professor Jackson Baldwin. These are my colleagues, Dr. Amanda Winters and Dr. Faisal Hassan.
I studied them carefully.
Professor Baldwin stood with his arms crossed, defiant but controlled. Dr. Winters, a smaller human with light skin and red hair, kept glancing at me curiously. Dr. Hassan, medium-built with a neatly trimmed beard, was eyeing our technology with obvious interest. We understand, Dren began smoothly, that there have been some inconsistencies in how human educational institutions present certain historical events, specifically the circumstances leading to the Sol Quarantine Agreement. Inconsistencies, Dr. Winters repeated, and again I detected that distinctive human sarcasm. That's one way to put it. The official record is clear, Dren continued. Human aggression necessitated defensive action by the Council, resulting in the current arrangement for the safety of all parties. Professor Baldwin laughed outright. Is that what you call firing on civilian transport ships? Defensive action? Those ships violated restricted space, Dren countered. They were refugee ships, Dr. Han said quietly, fleeing from Council bombardment of Europa. My grandparents were on one of those ships. I found myself leaning forward with interest. This was family history, one of the ways humans preserved their past. The Council had focused on altering official records, but had underestimated the power of stories passed down through generations. Your recollection is inaccurate, Dren said dismissively. The historical record was rewritten, Professor Baldwin interrupted. We know this. You know this. So let's not waste time pretending otherwise. Dren's scales flushed dark with anger. You will refrain from making such accusations. Or what? Baldwin challenged. You will adjust our memories again? That worked so well the first 3 times. I couldn't help myself. How did you resist the adjustments? I blurted out. Dren shot me a furious look, but the humans all turned to me with interest. She speaks, Dr. Winters said with a small smile. I was beginning to think you were just a recording device. I apologize for my colleague's inappropriate question, Dren said. The archivist is here to observe only. I'm curious too, Dr. Hassan said, ignoring Dren and addressing me directly. You are different from the others who have come before. You seem genuinely interested. I was desperately so. But Dren's glare warned me to stay silent. Fortunately, Professor Baldwin didn't wait for my response. To answer your question, Archivist, we resisted because we prepared. After the first memory adjustment, those who remembered warned others. We developed mnemonics, cognitive anchors. We encoded our true history into songs, stories, art, things that bypass rational thought and lodge directly in emotional memory. Fascinating, I whispered. That's enough, Dren cut in. We are not here to discuss conspiracy theories. We are here to address educational standards. The meeting continued, growing increasingly tense. The humans were polite but unyielding. They knew what the council had done, and they weren't going to pretend otherwise. After 2 hours, Dren dismissed them, his frustration evident. That was unproductive, he snapped once the humans had left. And you, Archivist, disobeyed direct instructions not to engage. I apologize, Agent Dren, I said. Scientific curiosity overcame protocol. See that it doesn't happen again, he warned. Tomorrow we interview their entertainment producers. Perhaps they will be more cooperative. But I couldn't stop thinking about what Professor Baldwin had said. Emotional memory, cognitive anchors. The humans had found a way to preserve truth, despite the Council's technology. It was brilliant and deeply troubling for our mission. That night, I did something forbidden. I slipped out of the embassy. Embassy security was designed to keep humans out, not Council members in. With my clearance, I easily bypassed the perimeter sensors and found myself standing on a human street for the first time. The sensory experience was overwhelming. Smells of food I couldn't identify, sounds of vehicles and conversation, the press of cool night air against my skin membranes. I pulled my cloak tighter, hoping my non-human features wouldn't attract attention, and set out to explore. I didn't have a destination in mind, but after walking for some time I found myself drawn to a building emanating music and conversation. A sign illuminated in blue read Stargazer Lounge. Through the windows, I could see humans talking, laughing, some moving rhythmically to music. Taking a deep breath, I pushed open the door and entered. The music hit me first, complex rhythms, haunting melodies unlike anything in Council space. Then the smell of fermented beverages and cooked food. A few humans glanced my way, but most continued their activities. Non-Council aliens weren't common on Earth, but weren't unheard of either. Independent traders, diplomats from non-aligned worlds. I found an empty table in a corner and sat, observing. A serving human approached, eyeing me curiously. What can I get you? They asked. Whatever you recommend, I said, grateful my translator was working. First time here? The server smiled. I will bring you something mild. Some species find our drinks a bit overwhelming. As they walked away, I noticed something on the wall behind the bar, a mural. It depicted a scene I recognized instantly from the classified archives, the Battle of Proxima Centauri, where human ships had fought back against Council forces. But in this artistic rendering, the human vessels were small, almost fragile against the massive Council warships. Not the aggressive act of war our records described, but a desperate last stand. The server returned with a glass containing a blue liquid. On the house, they said, we don't get many Council species in here. Brave of you to venture out alone. I'm just an archivist, I said, curious about human culture. An archivist. The server's expression changed subtly. You should talk to the owner. He collects stories. They nodded toward an older human behind the bar, who was watching our interaction with interest. Thank you, I said, taking a sip of the drink. It was sweet and slightly bitter, not unpleasant. After the server left, the owner made his way to my table. Up close, I could see his face was lined with age, his hair mostly gray. Mind if I join you? He asked. Without waiting for an answer, he sat across from me. Name's Marcus Valdez. Don't often see Council folks in here. I'm Quasel, I replied. Just exploring. Exploring. he repeated, studying me. Dangerous activity for a council member. Especially now. Why especially now? Marcus leaned back, his eyes never leaving mine. Anniversary's coming up. 30 Earth years since the massacre of Europa. People remember, even when they are told to forget. My skin flushed with discomfort. The massacre of Europa was listed in council records as the Europa security operation, a necessary response to human military buildup on Jupiter's moon. The official record states, I began. I know what the official record states. Marcus interrupted. I also know what I saw. I was there, archivist, a civilian engineer on Europa Station. I watched council ships reduce our colony to rubble because we refused to abandon research into trans-dimensional physics.
I swallowed hard.
This was first-hand testimony, the most dangerous kind of memory. The council feared humans were developing weapons. I said carefully. Marcus laughed, a harsh sound without humor. We were developing faster-than-light communication, not weapons. The council just couldn't stand the idea of humans advancing too quickly. He tapped the table. But that's not why you are here, is it? The regular adjustment team already came through last month. You are something different. I hesitated, torn between my duty and my curiosity. The council is concerned about persistent memories, stories that contradict the official record. Ah, Marcus nodded. You are here about the Remembrance Project. The what? A slight smile crossed his face. If you don't know, I shouldn't be the one to tell you. But since you found your way here, he reached into his pocket and withdrew a small data chip. Tomorrow night. The coordinates are on this. Come alone or don't come at all. He placed the chip on the table and stood. Finish your drink, archivist. Then I suggest you return to your compound before you are missed. As he walked away, I stared at the innocent-looking data chip. This was exactly the kind of lead I was supposed to report to Dren immediately. The source of the forbidden memories, perhaps? My mission was to help eliminate it. Instead, I slipped the chip into my pocket. Some part of me needed to know the truth before I decided what to do with it. The next day, our interviews with human media producers went as poorly as the previous day's meetings. These humans were even more resistant, openly challenging Dren's assertions about history. One, a filmmaker named Priya Banerjee, actually laughed in his face. You have seen our films and think you can convince us to change them? She asked incredulously. Art reflects truth, even when official records don't. Your art is spreading dangerous misinformation, Dren countered. Your information is propaganda, she shot back. By the end of the day, Dren was furious. These humans are impossible, he ranted as our team returned to our quarters. We may need to recommend more drastic measures. The thought chilled me. What kind of measures? I asked. That's not your concern, archivist, he replied coldly. Continue your analysis of their educational and media materials. I need to report to First Administrator Vorix. Once alone, I examined the data chip Marcus had given me. The coordinates led to a location about 20 kilometers outside the city. There was also a time, midnight. Getting out of the embassy again would be simple enough, but traveling that far would require transportation. I spent the evening reviewing the materials we'd collected, my mind only half on my work. When the residential wing quieted for the night cycle, I once again slipped past security. This time I used my council authorization to requisition a small transport vehicle, logging it as necessary for nocturnal cultural observation. The human city gave way to less populated areas as I followed the navigation system. Eventually I found myself approaching what appeared to be an abandoned industrial facility. There were no lights visible, no signs of activity. Had I misunderstood, or was this some kind of trap? I parked some distance away and approached cautiously. As I neared the main building, a figure emerged from the shadows. Archivist Quetzal, Marcus Valdez greeted me. You came?
I'm curious.
I admitted. Curiosity is dangerous in a council member, he said, but it might just save you. Follow me. He led me to what looked like a sealed entrance. After pressing his hand to a hidden panel, a door slid open, revealing a lift. We stepped inside, and I felt it descend deep below the surface. What is this place? I asked. Once upon a time it was a data storage facility. Marcus explained, built before the council arrived, hardened against electromagnetic pulse weapons and radiation, The Council's forces missed it during their initial sweep of Earth's information repositories. The lift stopped, and the doors opened to reveal a vast underground chamber humming with activity. Dozens of humans worked at various stations, surrounded by technology that looked both familiar and strangely archaic. "Welcome," Marcus said, "to the heart of the Remembrance Project." Human faces turned toward me, expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. "You brought a council archivist here?" one demanded. "Have you lost your mind, Valdez?" "She's different," Marcus replied. "She asks questions, and we need someone on the inside if we are going to succeed." "Succeed at what?" I asked, increasingly aware that I was very far from the embassy with no one knowing my whereabouts. Marcus gestured around the chamber, preserving the truth, not just for humans, but for all species under council rule. He led me to a central platform where a holographic display showed a galaxy-wide network. For 30 years we have been collecting and preserving testimonies, records, evidence, everything the council has tried to erase. Not just about the human catastrophe, but about dozens of other incidents. The Kelvon Purge, the destruction of Proxima Station, the disappearance of the Trill delegation. I stared at the display in shock. These were all classified events, sanitized in official records. How did you get this information? Not everyone in the council agrees with the policy of historical revision, Marcus said meaningfully. Some believe that truth matters. And what do you plan to do with all this? Marcus smiled. In 3 days, on the 30th anniversary of the Europa massacre, we are going to broadcast it, all of it, to every system in council space simultaneously, the complete, unaltered truth. My heart's raced. This was far worse or better, depending on one's perspective, than the council had imagined. Not just humans telling stories among themselves, but a coordinated plan to expose council deceptions to the entire galaxy. That's impossible, I said. The council controls all interstellar communication channels. Not all of them, said a new voice. I turned to see Professor Baldwin from our interview session approaching. We have spent decades developing our own network. Sleeper relays hidden in asteroid belts, dormant transmitters on uninhabited moons, all waiting for a single activation signal. You will start a war, I whispered. Or prevent the next one, Baldwin countered. The Council's lies haven't created peace, only a pause between conflicts. True reconciliation requires truth. I looked around at the humans watching me, waiting. I realized, from my reaction, I had come here seeking the source of human memory persistence, and I'd found it not just stories or emotional anchors, but an organized resistance dedicated to preserving historical truth. Why show me this? I asked finally. I'm part of the system you are fighting against. Marcus placed a hand on my shoulder the first time a human had touched me. Because every revolution needs allies on the other side. And because you asked how we remember when others forget. He gestured to the chamber around us. This is how we remember together. We keep the truth alive together. And now you have to decide, Archivist Quasel. Will you help us remember, or will you help the Council make us forget? I stood there, caught between worlds, as the most important decision of my life loomed before me. The Council had sent me to find the source of humanity's stubborn memory. I had found it. Now, I had to decide what to do with that knowledge. And whatever I decided would change not just human history, but the history of the entire galaxy. The question hung in the air between us. Will you help us remember, or will you help the Council make us forget? I stared at Marcus, at Professor Baldwin, at all the humans watching me with guarded hope and suspicion. My training as an archivist had taught me to value accurate records above all else. Yet my position in the Council had required me to participate in their systematic falsification. I need time to think, I said finally. Time is the one luxury we don't have, Professor Baldwin replied. In 3 days, we broadcast the truth to the galaxy. The Council will respond immediately and ruthlessly. We need to know now where you stand. I closed my eyes, processing everything I'd seen. Show me your evidence, I said. If I'm to betray everything I have known, I need to be certain of what I'm defending. Marcus nodded to a young woman at a nearby console. Zara, show the archivist file Europa Prime. The holographic display shifted, now showing footage I'd never seen before. Civilians fleeing as Council warships appeared in Europa's sky, the bombardment beginning without warning. Council ground troops rounding up human scientists, confiscating research materials. This footage was smuggled out by a cargo pilot, Marcus explained, one of the few ships that escaped the blockade. The Council claims humans were developing spatial distortion weapons, I said, repeating the official narrative. We were researching instantaneous communication, Professor Baldwin countered. A technology that would have made the Council's control of interstellar communication obsolete. That was our real crime. More footage played Council security forces arresting human diplomats who had arrived to negotiate. Internal Council communications discussing the human problem and the need for a preemptive solution, all of it contradicting the official record I had helped maintain. There's more, Marcus said quietly, much more. Not just about humans. The Council has been rewriting history for centuries, eliminating inconvenient truths across dozens of species and hundreds of worlds. I felt sick. As an archivist, my duty was to preserve knowledge, not suppress it. Yet I had been complicit in exactly that. If I help you, I said slowly, the consequences will be severe. Not just for me, for everyone involved. We know the risks, Professor Baldwin said. We have been living with them for 30 years. Why now, I asked. After all this time, why broadcast everything now? Marcus and Baldwin exchanged glances. Because now we can, Baldwin said. Our network is finally complete, and because the Council is planning something worse than memory adjustment. What do you mean? Your team isn't just here to reinforce the memory adjustments, Marcus said grimly. They are here to assess whether humans are worth the continued effort to control. The alternative is reclassification. My blood ran cold. Reclassification. In Council terminology, that meant designating a species as non-sentient, removing all rights and protections. It had happened before to species deemed too troublesome to manage, but too valuable to eliminate entirely. That can't be right, I protested. Dren didn't mention any assessment for reclassification. Would he tell a junior archivist the true purpose of the mission? Baldwin asked. He had a point. I was the lowest-ranking member of the team, brought along only for my knowledge of human psychology. I need proof, I insisted. Marcus nodded to Zara again. Show the transmission from yesterday. The display changed to show an encrypted Council communication. The security classification was far above my clearance level, but there it was, a message from First Administrator Vorix to Agent Drain. Proceed with sentience reassessment protocols if memory persistence continues. Reclassification recommended. How did you get this? I whispered. As I said, Marcus replied, not everyone in the Council agrees with these policies. We have allies. My mind raced. If the Council reclassified humans as non-sentient, they could be exploited, experimented on, even harvested for resources, all legally, under Council law. It had happened to other species before, their names now forgotten, except in the most classified archives. What do you need from me? I asked, my decision made. Relief visibly washed over Marcus's face. Access. Information. Warning if the Council discovers our plan before we are ready. I can do that, I said. But you should know the Council will never admit it was wrong. Even faced with irrefutable evidence, they will deny everything. We are not trying to change the Council, Baldwin said. We are trying to change everyone else. Once enough people know the truth, the Council will have to change or lose legitimacy. It was a bold plan, possibly suicidal, but looking around at these humans who had spent decades fighting to preserve truth against overwhelming odds, I couldn't help but admire their determination. I will help you, I said. But we need to be careful. If Dren suspects anything, he will lock down the entire operation immediately. Then you'd better get back before you are missed, Marcus said, handing me a small communications device. This is untraceable. Use it if you need to contact us. As I prepared to leave, Professor Baldwin approached me. Thank you, Archivist Quesel. I know what this cost you. I'm not sure you do, I replied, but I know what it would cost me to do nothing. The trip back to the embassy was tense, every shadow seeming to hide Council security forces. But I made it back without incident and slipped into my quarters undetected. Sleep eluded me that night. I kept seeing the footage from Europa, hearing Marcus's words about reclassification. By morning I was exhausted but resolute. Whatever happened next, I would no longer be complicit in the Council's deceptions. Dren called the team together after breakfast. We are making no progress with the standard approach, he announced. Today we begin the sentience assessment protocols. My heart skipped a beat. So it was true. Sir? One of the other team members questioned. I wasn't aware that was part of our mission. It wasn't necessary for you to be aware, Dren replied coldly. The assessment will proceed as follows. We will conduct neurological scans of selected human subjects under controlled conditions. We will be looking for evidence of higher cognitive functions associated with true sentience. But sir, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady, humans have already passed all standard sentience tests. Their art, literature, philosophy, all of it clearly demonstrates sentient thought. Dren's eyes narrowed. The assessment criteria have been adjusted. First Administrator Vorks believes the previous standards were too lenient. Of course, they weren't testing whether humans were sentient, they were changing the definition of sentience to exclude humans. A bureaucratic solution to a political problem. Archivist Quazzle, Dren continued, you will assist in preparing the testing chamber. Your knowledge of human psychology may prove useful in creating the appropriate conditions. Yes, sir, I said, seeing an opportunity. What parameters should I optimize for? Stress, Dren replied without hesitation. Maximum cognitive stress. We need to observe how their thought patterns degrade under pressure. They were setting the humans up to fail. Create impossible conditions, then use the subject's inability to perform as evidence of non-sentience. It was clever in a horrifying way. As the team dispersed to their tasks, I slipped away to a maintenance closet where I could use the communication device Marcus had given me. They are beginning sentience reassessment, I whispered after establishing contact. They are creating impossible test conditions to force failure. We expected something like this, Marcus's voice replied. Can you get us the assessment parameters? I will try. They are preparing the testing chamber now. Be careful, Quazzle. If they catch... I know. I returned to my duties, carefully observing as Dren's specialist prepared the testing chamber. They calibrated neural scanners to ignore certain brain regions, precisely the regions where humans processed emotional memory and creative thought. They prepared sensory overstimulation equipment designed to cognitive shutdown. Every aspect of the test was rigged for failure. When the others broke for midday meal, I quickly copied the test parameters onto my communication device and transmitted them to the Remembrance Project. Hours later, the first test subjects arrived, 5 humans selected at random from the local population, told they were participating in a cultural exchange study. I recognized one of them, Zara, from the Remembrance Project facility. Our eyes met briefly, and I gave a tiny nod. She was there deliberately, to observe from the inside. Welcome, Dren greeted them with false warmth. Thank you for participating in this important research. We are studying cognitive processes across species. Happy to help, one of the humans replied, a middle-aged man named Thomas. Always interesting to learn how different species think. If only he knew the true purpose of these tests. The assessments began with simple cognitive tasks, gradually increasing in difficulty. The humans performed well initially, solving complex problems and demonstrating abstract reasoning. Dren seemed increasingly annoyed. Initiate stress protocols, he ordered. The chamber's environment changed. The temperature rose. Harsh, discordant sounds began playing at increasing volume. The lighting pulsed at frequencies designed to induce discomfort. Still, the humans persisted. They supported each other, developed strategies to manage the hostile conditions. Zara particularly excelled, helping the others focus despite the distractions. Increased to maximum discomfort levels. Dren commanded, frustration evident in his voice. Sir, I interjected, protocol requires a gradual increase to prevent physiological damage. Override protocol, he snapped. We need results today. The chamber conditions became nearly unbearable. 2 of the humans collapsed, unable to continue. Thomas and another woman, Elena, struggled but kept working on the assigned tasks. Zara remained composed, though I could see the strain on her face. Their neural patterns are fragmenting, one of the specialists reported with satisfaction. Higher cognitive functions shutting down in subjects 1 and 2. Excellent, Dren said. Document everything. This will be sufficient evidence for reclassification. I couldn't watch anymore. Sir, this is torture, not assessment. I protested. We are violating at least 7 council ethics directives. Ethics directives don't apply to non-sentient species, Dren replied, confirming my worst fears. The decision had already been made. These tests were just creating the justification. But the results aren't even valid, I persisted. No species could perform optimally under these conditions. Your concerns are noted, Archivist, Dren said dismissively. Perhaps you should return to your quarters if you find this distressing. I wanted to argue further, but I caught Sarah's eye. She gave a tiny shake of her head. She was right, I would be more useful to the Remembrance Project if I maintained my position on the team. As you wish, sir, I said, withdrawing from the testing chamber. In my quarters, I immediately contacted Marcus. It's worse than we thought. They are not testing for sentience. They have already decided humans are non-sentient and are manufacturing evidence to support it. We need to accelerate the plan, Marcus replied. Can you access the embassy's communication system? Possibly. Why? We need to piggyback our broadcast signal on the Council's own network. It will give us better penetration across Council space. That's incredibly risky, I said. The security protocols are designed to keep people out, not let information out, Marcus finished. We have been studying Council systems for decades, Quasel. We just need access to a terminal with the right clearance. I thought for a moment. Dren's private terminal would have the access we need, but getting to it, can you do it? I took a deep breath. Yes. Tonight, when the embassy is on night cycle, I will create a distraction in another section to draw security away. Be careful, Marcus said. If anything feels wrong, abort. We will find another way. After disconnecting, I spent the rest of the day reviewing embassy security protocols, identifying vulnerabilities. By evening, I had formulated a plan. It wasn't elegant, but it might work. When the night cycle began, I waited until the hallways were nearly empty before making my move. First, I triggered a minor environmental system malfunction in the residential wing. Nothing dangerous, just annoying enough to require attention. As security personnel and maintenance workers responded, I made my way to Dren's office. His security was substantial, but focused on keeping humans out, not fellow council members. With my archival clearance and some creative use of access protocols, I managed to enter his private office. His terminal sat on a desk overlooking the embassy grounds. Working quickly, I accessed the communications system and created a backdoor access point as Marcus had instructed. It would remain invisible until activated, allowing the Remembrance Project to broadcast through the Council's own network. I was almost finished when the office door slid open. I froze, hands still on the terminal. I thought I might find you here, Archivist Dren said, stepping into the room. Though I admit I'd hoped to be wrong. My heart's raced. Agent Dren, I was just reviewing the test results. Something didn't seem right in the data. Don't insult my intelligence, he said coldly. You have been acting suspiciously since we arrived. The unauthorized vehicle requisition last night, your repeated defense of the test subjects, and now accessing my private terminal during night cycle. He gestured, and 2 security officers appeared behind him. Detain the archivist, he ordered. Class 1 security protocols. No communication, no visitors. The officers approached, restraint devices ready. You are making a mistake, I said desperately. What you are doing to the humans, it violates everything the Council claims to stand for. What I'm doing is protecting galactic stability, Dren replied. Humans are dangerous, unpredictable. Their capacity to resist memory adjustment proves it. It proves they value truth, I countered. Something the Council has forgotten. Truth is whatever serves the greater good, Dren said. Take her away. The security officers escorted me to a detention cell in the embassy's lowest level. A force field hummed across the entrance, and scanning devices monitored my every movement. I had failed, and worse, I had likely exposed the Remembrance Project. Dren would increase security. Track my movements from the previous night, find the facility. Hours passed. I sat motionless on the cell's single bench, contemplating the consequences of my actions. Treason against the Council carried severe penalties, memory erasure at minimum. Possibly execution for cases deemed sufficiently dangerous. The sound of approaching footsteps drew my attention. Dren appeared outside my cell, accompanied by First Administrator Vorix himself. I hadn't realized he had traveled to Earth. Archivist Quasel, Vorix said, his tentacled face unreadable. You have disappointed me greatly. I remained silent, knowing nothing I said would help my situation. Your fascination with humans has led you to betray your own kind, he continued. Agent Dren has informed me of your actions, accessing restricted terminals, unauthorized departures from the embassy, interference with the assessment protocols. The assessment protocols are a shame, I said finally. You have already decided to reclassify humans. The tests are just justification. Vorix's eye stalks twitched with annoyance. Of course they are. Did you think this was actually about sentience? This is about control, Archivist. Humans resist our memory adjustments. They refuse to accept the historical narrative that maintains peace and order. They are a destabilizing influence that must be contained. At least he was honest. By declaring them non-sentient, by stripping them of all rights. What happens to them then? They will serve the Council in other ways, Vorix said dismissively. Their physical capabilities and biological adaptability make them valuable resources. The coldness of his statement chilled me. Humans wouldn't just lose their rights, they would become property. Tools to be used however the Council saw fit. Now, Vorix continued, you will tell us who you have been communicating with. We know you left the embassy. We know you accessed restricted systems. Who helped you? I remained silent. Cooperation might mitigate your punishment, Dren added. Full memory erasure can be traumatic. A partial adjustment would be preferable, I'm sure. The threat was clear. Either I betrayed the Remembrance Project, or I would lose everything that made me who I was. Before I could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the embassy. Vorthax's communication device activated, and a panicked voice reported, First Administrator, our systems are being accessed remotely. Someone is broadcasting on all Council frequencies. Vorix's face tentacles writhed in agitation. Block it. Shut down the communication arrays. We can't, sir. They are using our own security protocols against us. The Remembrance Project had activated their plan early. Perhaps they had realized I'd been captured. Or maybe they had always intended to move before the announced date to catch the Council off guard. Either way, the truth was being broadcast across Council space right now. We need to return to the Council chambers immediately. Vorix, ordered Dren. This situation requires direct intervention. What about the Archivist? Dren asked. Vorix glanced at me dismissively. Bring her. Once we have contained this crisis, she will face formal judgment. The security field deactivated, and officers attached restraints to my limbs. They escorted me behind Vorix and Dren as they hurried toward the embassy's shuttle bay. We had just entered the main atrium when the embassy doors burst open. A group of humans rushed in, led by Marcus Valdez and Professor Baldwin. They carried no weapons, but their determination was clear. First Administrator Vorix, Baldwin called out, we need to talk. Security officers moved to intercept the humans, but Vorix raised a hand to stop them. Professor Baldwin, this is an unauthorized entry into a Council facility. The penalties are severe. The penalties for falsifying history are worse, Baldwin replied. Or they should be. Vorix's eye stalks twitched with irritation. You are referring to the illegal broadcast currently disrupting Council communications. A collection of fabricated footage and manipulated records that proves nothing. It's not fabricated, Marcus said, stepping forward. And you know it. The truth is spreading across the galaxy right now. Every species under Council rule is learning how their history has been rewritten, their memories adjusted to serve Council interests. And you think this changes anything? Vorix asked, genuinely curious. The Council has ruled for 10,000 years. A few inconvenient facts won't topple that legacy. Maybe not immediately, Baldwin conceded, but truth has a way of growing once planted. You can't adjust the memories of every being in the galaxy. I noticed more humans entering the embassy behind Marcus and Baldwin. Dozens, then hundreds. They moved with purpose but without aggression, filling the atrium in silent protest. Vorix noticed too. What is the meaning of this invasion? Not an invasion, Marcus said, a demonstration. Look around you, First Administrator. These are the descendants of those who survived Europa. Those who remembered despite your best efforts to make them forget. Now they are here to ensure you don't bury the truth again. Outside, I could hear more voices. Through the embassy's transparent walls, I saw thousands of humans gathering in the plaza beyond. News recorders hovered above the crowd, broadcasting the scene. This is meaningless, Vorix insisted, but I could hear uncertainty in his voice. Humans are confined to the Sol system. What happens here has no bearing on council authority elsewhere. That was true, Baldwin said. Until about 30 minutes ago, your blockade ships are reporting mass demonstrations on every council world with access to communication networks. Not just humans, every species you have lied to over the centuries. A security officer approached Vorix, speaking urgently in his ear. The first administrator's face tentacles went pale. Impossible, he whispered. What is it? Dren demanded. The council chamber is demanding our immediate return, Vorix said, his voice hollow. The advisory races have called for an emergency session to discuss historical reconciliation. The advisory races were the council's most powerful members aside from Vorka's own species. If they were calling for reconciliation, it meant the broadcast had reached them too, and they believed it. It seems, Baldwin said quietly, that even your closest allies have questions about the official record. Rex stared at the humans surrounding him, then at me. This isn't over, he said finally. The council has survived challenges before. Not like this, I replied. Never the truth on this scale. He turned away, gesturing for Dren and the security team to follow. Prepare the shuttle for immediate departure. What about the archivist? Dren asked. Vorks glanced back at me. Leave her. She's made her choice. As they retreated toward the shuttle bay, a security officer removed my restraints. I rubbed my wrists, watching as Vorix and his entourage fled. Marcus approached me. Are you all right? I think so, I said, still processing what had just happened. How did you know I'd been captured? Zara, he explained. After the testing session, she realized you wouldn't have stopped communicating voluntarily. We accelerated the broadcast and organized this demonstration. The broadcast worked, I asked. Across all council space, beyond our wildest expectations, Baldwin said, joining us. The signal piggybackers you installed performed perfectly. Every communication device, every newsfeed, every official channel across the galaxy received the complete, unaltered historical record simultaneously. They couldn't block it fast enough. I looked out at the sea of humans in the plaza. What happens now? Now, Marcus said, we negotiate. Not as subjects but as equals. With the truth as our foundation. The council won't surrender power easily, I warned. We don't expect them to, Baldwin replied, but they can no longer claim their authority is based on benevolence and wisdom. The galaxy knows what they have done, what they have been doing for centuries. And what about me? I asked. I have betrayed the council. I can never go back. Marcus smiled. We could use an archivist, a real one, dedicated to preserving truth rather than convenient narratives. The offer was tempting. A chance to use my training for its intended purpose, the accurate recording and preservation of history. I'd like that, I said, though I'm not sure where to begin. There's so much to correct, so many records to restore. We start with today, Baldwin said, gesturing to the news recorders still broadcasting the scene. The day humanity remembered, and helped the galaxy remember too. As we walked out into the sunlight, joining the crowd of celebrating humans, I realized something profound. The council had feared human memory persistence because they recognized its power, the ability to remember truth despite official lies, to pass down stories that outlast propaganda, to maintain identity in the face of oppression. These were greater strengths than any technology or weapon. The council had tried to rewrite history, but humanity remembered, and now they had helped the entire galaxy remember too. For an archivist like me, dedicated to the preservation of knowledge, there could be no greater victory.